back, because we're here for the human experience, right? It's not to totally leave and jump out, or is it?
Yeah, yeah, and there can also be a false dichotomy where you think you've got to do one or the other. Either jump in or jump out. Well, what about doing both at the same time?
Yeah.
You have to choose then. Do everything. Disappear, reappear. Why not? What's the narrative underlying that? Like, presumably there's an assumption that there's a finality to it. Once you drop the body, once you reach this height, that you finally finished, and then you can leave and then never come back again. Am I right?
Well, at those levels, there's supposedly still attachments to living, for example. You still exist.
Yeah.
And the fear of death.
Right. So, what do you think? Do you want to simply leave and never come back, or do you want to experience both at the same time? Yeah.
You want to experience both at the same time. Then you can choose how you wish to live this life in the reality that you desire to see it through. And if you're seeing all the way up to the outer body, then you would realize this experience is beautiful, and you could then play into that a bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is just one. I mean, if this is just one world, realm, experience thing, I think there's others, and things that you learn on others may help you in this one. Yeah. So you might want to bounce around between a couple of different ones.
Right. Very much so.
What are the other ones, and what are they like?
I don't know, man.
Has anyone experienced that?
So the different schools, like the known schools of spirituality that we have access to, will present different descriptions, right? But there's also, like you're saying, Michelle, what is the direct experience? Has anyone directly experienced it? And remember that this all plays out in your imagination, right? The waking reality that we're perceiving right now is in the imagination as well. There's nowhere else to go. You can't run away from your own consciousness, nor would you want to, right? Your consciousness is characterized very fundamentally by having a screen over which imagery and experience is played. So when you close your eyes and just simply imagine another world, well, that world exists. You just chose it and you made it exist.
Is it like dream as well? If you dream as well and you create those worlds, if you daydream in this reality, if you fantasize in this reality, they're all traveling between. If you take DMT and you go off into like a space out, that's another experience of that.
Yeah. That's right. Absolutely. Yeah.
And meditation is that too, where you can pull down information.
Yeah. Now, is that satisfying enough?
It can be, yeah.
Yeah. And but just be honest too. Like, how is it not satisfying enough?
If you wanted it to keep going like a dream, and you wanted to relive, go back and fall asleep, and you want to continue that, you may not be able to. But then in the same token, you might be having a nightmare and be so relieved that you're back out of that.
Yeah. How often does anyone have nightmares, just as a tangent?
My son has them all the time.
Yeah, kids do, hey. But what about us adults, us people?
Almost never.
I did when I was depressed, like all the time.
Yeah.
Since I got I wouldn't say along the path, but I'm certainly further away from that darkness. I don't really have anything anymore. Yeah. But also I'm more accepting of anything that's like freaky that comes at me. So it tends not to turn it into a nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. Right. There's a key thing to understand about dreams is that what you remember of dreams, and we know that we can develop our ability to remember dreams more and more and more. But nonetheless, what you remember of a dream is not, it is real, but it is not always an exact image of what happens. Like there will still be a translation effect because you're translating it into third dimensional, relatively linear sort of pictorial reality. That's why you'll get, I think it was you, Chris, ages ago, you were saying that, it was your father was in the dream or something like that. Yeah. So, you had a contact with a being, a spirit being. And then when you kind of woke up, your memory of that contact was having a contact with your father. And what I said at the time was, it wasn't actually probably your father. It was a spirit being, an ancestor or a higher self kind of, some kind of more abstract form, an entity. And when you woke up, you just sort of, or even during the dream, your basic physical brain just thought father, and so you made it look like that.
Yeah.
Something to consider there. Yeah.
Is there a way to remember dreams that isn't filtered by, that?
Yeah. So the word remember is the trick there. Whenever you're remembering a dream, you will have to translate it because remember implies linearity in time. Right. So there will be a translation occur there. But even when you are remembering it in that physical sense, you're still on those higher levels beyond the bottom ones. You're still re-experiencing, or you're not re-experiencing it, you are experiencing it. So to answer your question, the way to get a more full experience of it is to experience it again. To close your eyes and go back there, go to that place again.
Yeah.
Be aware that you could go to that same place and have exactly the same experience, but it could be on Thursday it could be translated as certain forms, and on Friday it could be certain other forms. Same dream though, same place, same basic interaction, same spirit beings present, potentially different flavors.
So could you ever stay in one of those dream states and not come back to this one? Could you jump into that and start living that life as if that life was never interrupted?
Yeah.
That's so cool. I've thought about that.
Yeah. And but sooner or later you'd go, oh well, you'd realise that it's totally possible and not even hard to do both at once. So then you'll just do both at once.
Did anyone else ever had, when I was growing up, I had a favourite fantasy that I made up in my mind, and I would go over it I would write my own sort of TV show every night before I went to sleep.
Wow.
So it would be what episode, what adventures am I going to go on tonight?
Oh, good one.
So every night before I went to sleep, that's what I did.
Yeah.
And I'm just sort of remembering this now, talking about it, which is pretty freaky. I was at one point I was completely living both at the same time because I spent so much time invested in the fantasy reality. And I was visiting it so regularly, and it was progressing in a normal sort of linear fashion in the way that I don't know, any story would. And I reached a point where I was like, wow, I'm way more invested in that one than I am in this current existence where I have to go to school or whatever it is that I was doing. So at some point I stopped doing it because I got worried that I would completely disconnect from my real life.
Yeah. Wow, good on you. That's great. We should all be doing that. We should all be doing that. Absolutely. That's if you're going to take anything out of all of spirituality, whether it be ancient Indian or New Age or whatever, you should be doing it. That reaction that even as a child Jackie had, where she realized it was not normal and might be unhealthy or be a problem or schizophrenic, blah blah blah, and then to stop it, that's the heartbreaking thing, isn't it?
It was fun.
To not be able to bounce that idea off an elder and go and have it reinforced as a really healthy thing to do, because it is a very, very healthy thing to do. Electing to live in a different, a higher plane.
Jackie, did you have control over what was happening there as well?
Yeah, to an extent. It was like ideas would come to me like about what was going to happen next or whatever, but it was also like, it was very much like, oh, I would like it for it to be this way, so that's how it was.
Yeah.
That's a lovely co-creation idea. You know, you're sending intentions up, and you contribute your part, and then he contributes its part, and then you merge it together. So again, lucid dreaming is another idea of what we ought to be doing. Essentially, meditation in many ways is practicing lucid dreaming.
Do people tend to be able to do that more once they've kind of, when I say worked out what's happening in this realm, like they see this for what it is, and they, you have a pretty firm grip on the reality of what's happening here? Does that become the next kind of, I want to say, like a challenge or a desire or quest or whatever has been motivating you guys to get to this point? But yeah, like it sort of seems, I'm a bit, for me anyway, like when you can bring what you want forward and do what you want in this sort of realm, it's a little bit like, what's next? And
that's right.
It's getting to that point of what's next. Like, what more could you possibly ask for? Then when you seem to have everything, it's like there's still something missing. And it's is it that? Is it higher searching for
higher searching, and also it moves from then also like a self focus to a community focus too. You know, like what would I like? How would I like for the world to be? You know, when I walk down the street, how would I like it to be?
That happens. That happens.
No, I don't doubt it. I mean, your Michelle, your job is so targeted at community health.
Even if you just walk out the street and you're smiling, like the mirror of that just comes back. It's kind of like your world is that, like you've done it. Like what do you need to do?
Yeah, it's heaven on earth is the purpose of life, is to create heaven on earth.
Even spanning that far beyond your community, like what about in other countries where things happen? Or
yeah. But if you start with your community, I mean, if for example, wouldn't it be great if we could just walk down the street and not only smile and infuse and share joy like that, but just basically have conversations without talking? That'd be cool too. But that would be pretty radical as well. Right? As far as I can tell, that's still a radical idea. Just widespread psychic communication.
Be great though,
wouldn't it? Well, what's about the restrictions are just like it's happening now, right?
Yeah, it is.
I'm a few days behind you guys. Hopefully it's happened. I don't know. Have you walked down the street lately?
Yeah, things are pretty there's heaps of people out.
Yeah, I bet.
They're pretty stoked.
They are, aren't they? So you don't need to read minds. You can see. You can see without.
That's the same thing, though.
No.
You just know. That's it. It's not reading minds. Is not. Not hearing their voices, hearing their inner dialogue. Yeah, it's just knowing what they know, and that's it. It's just an anticlimax. We are all psychic already. We're just again in that culture where that's crazy. So don't think about how psychic you are. Don't do that. That's crazy. So we just don't. Even though it's obvious, you walk down the street and you think, oh well, no, I can tell that she's happy because she's smiling. Well, yeah, but you feel that person's specific flavor of joy and their signature, and you feel it, and it's there, and and then your brain just goes, the confirmation bias, blah, blah, blah. You just knew that she was happy because she was smiling. You walk on, you keep on going. That's just your automatic pattern. Receive information instantly, and then disown most of it all the time.
Yeah, it's pretty weird that we kind of just say 30% of meaning is verbal and 70% is body language. Never really seemed right to me.
Yeah. Stats like that are great. That's great. When they say body language, what they really mean is the vast majority of the information you're getting is non-verbal.
Well, they don't necessarily mean physical body.
Yes, that's right. and the other one is just placebo. It's such a well accepted, understood fact that placebo can skew results by 30% or more. And we just go, oh, okay, that's interesting, and then we just ignore it. And like, do you understand?
Yeah.
Your mind can enhance.
Controls reality.
Yeah. Your mind is controlling.
They're like, interesting statistical effect there. Let's move on.
How does this relate to the marketing of the pill? Great. Okay. Yes. Anyway, so we get that fundamental point covered, is that we're not looking to escape. Great, because we understand, because we have faith and we have trust, and we have dawning awareness that we can actually make the world such a beautiful place to be in, and that the particular kind of illusion that we live within in the physical existence is a fairly rare illusion, rare in its intensity, right? So to have so much forgetfulness that it's possible to actually fuck up and be lost for lifetimes, like that's pretty intense amount of forgetfulness, that's the way Earth is talked about. It's just like training ground, school ground kind of thing. It's like it's a bit masochistic in that way. It's like, can I be so implanted so deeply in the depths of materiality, such a thin little cord connecting me back to the source, can I make it back out without dying? Like before I die, before the body dies, can I actually, make any progress?
It's like a weird form of altitude training, when people train in specific environments to try to improve their performance. That's right. What I always think of when I think of Earth. I'm like, it's like shackling yourself with weights and trying to climb up a mountain. Because you're building that.
So if consciousness in this lifetime, and we take it after this body dies, do we know where we're going? Like you're saying, we're training for something else, like we're trying to get through this lifetime to realize what this is before the body dies.
Yeah, so take that idea and move it into the idea of parallel lives rather than sequences of lives. So then it's about rather than think of it as you're going up a mountain, right? And you've got 5 lives running at the same time, which is probably about right. Maybe you've got more. You got 5 lives running at the same time, and you just have to identify in the Zoom call with one of them. And you've all started from different points on the mountain, different Japan and Australia and somewhere else. And maybe different levels. Your starting points on a vertical level have been slightly different as well. And you go boom, and okay, let's go, guys. And this is like the oversoul level, right? This is the next level up. This is you and your little ting guys, and the effort of one of your simultaneous incarnations increases everyone.
Oh.
Isn't that lovely?
Yeah, right. So how do I find my other dudes?
Well, you hang out with them in your dreams. That's just normal, and so then it expands beyond just having your own personal simultaneous lives. Then it gets more like it goes up the tree structure, like a mathematical tree structure. Then it goes to I've also got lives that are running, but they're not running. They're running right now, but they're running right now in the 1700s. If that makes any sense at all, there are some that are running right now in the age of 1980 to 2050 or whatever it is. But there are also some that are running right now in the 1700s, and then in various other time locations as well. So they're also there. And then you've got some that are on different planets, kind of idea, like the other places in space. and they're running at the same time because everything runs at the same time. And then you've just got relatives, you know, ones are just a little bit more removed. You know, they're still related to you, like in that you had very close relationships with them for a few lives in a row, for example, but not so many that you could call yourself tightly married to them on a simultaneous existence level.
And that marriage of energy is just caused by like the amount of activity that you share, right? The amount of interaction.
Yeah, and
right.
Just attraction in that way,
Okay.
because it's you're doing similar things, and there's a mutual benefit in hanging out. Yeah, water is running down the hill, and the paths are running side by side, and it tends to bump over and share and form one single river, and that works really, really well for maybe forever or maybe for a while, and then a boulder comes and it's like, oh shit, split off again.
Yeah, right. That's a good analogy. So we're just following the path of least resistance.
Exactly. Yes.
But we're just talking about souls.
Yeah. And why would it be any different? You know, it's just a physical. It's just a physical. We're calling it non-physical because you have to draw a line between like what our culture understands to be physical and then the rest of reality, which is non-physical, but it still runs the same laws of physics, overall abstract laws, like least resistance and attraction. You know, what you get out, what you put out is what you get back. That's the law of attraction. That's
Okay. Could we discuss your analogy of throwing suns out? That was a really cool piece of writing, by the way.
Yeah, thanks. I'll send it to you, Michelle. I'll send it to you later. There's a sun behind me. You see?
Yep.
What, the lamp? Oh.
What's that for?
That is a lacrosse ball. It's really good. It's quite heavy. It's really, really heavy. It's like a little bit rubberized. Really good massage ball. I got it in Mysore 3 months ago. Yes. So a thought impulse. An impulse. In the email, I made an analogy. I said, imagine a situation where you can launch little suns. You can toss a sun out, you throw it, and it'll slowly, in a nice yawning arc, it'll boomerang around and come back at you. Right? The sun is, it's a sun, right? So it's a ball of fire, but not a ball of fire. It's, how the sun's got like a nuclear reactor in the center of it. It's like the sun's pretty amazing. It's been going on for God knows how long, and it's not going to stop anytime soon. And like, it's not needing refuels. It's just got some kind of freaky shit going on in the core, some kind of nuclear reaction that's just going and going and going and going. Whereas, a fireball, in truth, would be very boring in comparison. Just getting an aerosol can and making a fireball, like that's lasts for a second. Anyway, so you've got this little sun in your hand and you throw it, and because of the laws of physics, you just know that it's going to swim around and then come back again. That's like the most reliable thing you can possibly rely on. And you're tossing that into space. So you're tossing that into the void of emptiness and debris and rocks. Like the most kind of inert, imaginable, lifeless space. And when a sun, goes out into space, if it passes near something, it collects stuff in its orbit, right? We know this, comets, and we know how these things form. Simply by proximity, right? There's an attraction there. It moves close to something, that it'll suck that thing into its orbit, and it'll turn into like a comedy kind of thing. And then it comes back. Well, so this is what we're doing with thoughts and impulses. So when I say thought, I'm partnering with the word impulse because I don't mean a thought like a blah, blah, blah sentence that you say to yourself in your head like a moron. I mean like an impulse, like a desire launches or something comes, you know. That, you know, from the heart impulse goes out and then it comes back again. Look. Now, if you were just standing there in space and you had a sun in your hand and you did that a few times, right? The sun would collect experiences essentially, right? And the experience would be different depending on whereabouts exactly you pointed it and how hard you threw it. And it would just go around and collect a whole bunch of stuff and come back in. And you look at it and go, oh, look at the journey this guy had, this thought had, picked up some stuff. And then what if you had two, and then what if you had three, right? So you go boom, and then, oh, it's going around, yeah. And so's the other one, and you know, there's only three, so you still see them all, they're okay. And boom, boom, boom. And that's just a bit more variety for you, because you're standing in space in a freaking void of debris and emptiness, so you might as well have some fun, right? Throw some suns out and see what they collect. Oh, this one comes back with like a shiny bit of silver metal. Oh, that's pretty cool. I wonder what else is over there, you know? So you might throw a few more that way, see what happens. And you keep on doing it. And this is the where the fall happens, right? Because you're doing it and it's just consuming time. And you get more and more suns, and you keep on doing it, until some point occurs where you realize you've lost track of them. You know? You just kind of, maybe you got a little bit like fixated on that, where that shiny silver metal came from, so you just started chucking a few extra ones out that way, and you lost track of the ones that were over there, you know? And you throw it harder and harder, blah 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 blah. This is where you've lost concentration, your ability to concentrate on multiple things at once, simultaneous focus, not just following one thing in a way that's unbroken, but following like 10 things in a way that's unbroken. You can do it, but eventually, you know, your concentration will break. And then they start coming back to you, and you're not anticipating them when they come back. They just come back. Boom. Oh, shit. That one's covered with rust. I don't know, you know. And then you, oh, fuck. And then you ignore the ones that aren't expected, because it's just like, yeah, whatever. I'm still focused on this shiny area, you know, so you can throw more. And then more come back and hit you in the back of the head, you know. You can see how this cycle ends up getting quite unpleasant, where it was really, really interesting. Through a fairly naturally understandable process of variety and stimulation and lack of concentration, you could end up in a situation where there's a whole ton of unpreferred, inconvenient and unpleasant things kind of mildly happening. And you may find yourself not even aware anymore that you're the one that launched all those suns. Now you feel like you're almost like a victim to it. I'm in space and stuff just bothers me. Thoughts come in, realities come in, material comes in and affects me, and it tends to be annoying. And the only thing I can do is launch more impulses. You just have more impulses, have more impulses, have more impulses. So you keep on making the problem worse, because you think, oh well, you know, it was fun last time I threw a ball in that direction, so I'll do another one. You know, and probably it's going to be fun back, but maybe it's not always. Maybe you're getting a bit confused, so you're not very good at throwing anymore. Maybe whatever it was that was fun over there is gone now, you know? So it's like, oh, well, that's fucking no good. So, well, there was a bit of fun in that direction for a while, so I'll go that way. I'll chase that one. Throw, you know? You get what I'm saying? So it turns into a bit hellish, a bit of a hellish existence, where it was so peaceful before. And so...
Stop that process?
Can you stop the process?
And to bring a stop to that process, yes.
Right. Well, then you know the answer to that question, right? It's just to stop throwing stuff. And
so would there be a backlog still coming through?
That's right, they would.
So just wait for that little bit of run its course.
Yeah.
Karmic cycle.
Yeah. But are you, by the time you've realized what's going on, you know, how long will that take? And are you really aware, and do you understand and trust that stopping will be enough to eventually stop all of that backlog? Because if it's been going on for 1,000 years, that's so long, and you're already suffering under this amnesia and confusion and growing impulsivity and growing addiction to sense gratification, because you kind of think that's the only thing that you've got going for you. just forgotten. And because, you know, that beautiful state that you were in before is so far gone, it's so long ago, and it's also so intangible and not obvious. Like, it's not shiny metal. It's not gold colored shiny metal. It's not silver colored shiny metal. It's nothing. What? I want nothing? What does that even mean? You know, then we have these typical spiritual newbie experiences. Like, well, what am I chasing? Chasing emptiness? That sounds shit. Can't I just have lots of chocolate? Yeah. Yes. So that's my analogy. And then I went on to say that and that you only, you typically have to die. You have to just die so many times because you're just not willing or attracting the knowledge to you or remembering how to stop it. You know, you end up having to be so depressed at the whole situation that you can't even be bothered throwing any more thoughts out.
Yeah.
Might as well just sit there and just take it. You know?
Like that.
Yeah. Just sit there, take your backlog, just take it. You know, and then
Like they deserve it.
Yeah. Well, because in some way they do deserve it. Like that's a reasonable gut feeling to have, because they do deserve, not because they're bad people or anything like this, but because they're just aware that it is their creation. In a mechanical, technical sense, yes, it is their creation.
But can't they change that?
Of course.
They realize that if they bring awareness to that and find acceptance in that.
That's right. So the idea is then, okay, so imagine one of the suns that you chucked out there, right? Imagine one of those suns started throwing its own suns out, started this whole journey itself. Just this little tennis ball, you know, that you bloody lovingly just chucked out with the intention for it to come back. Imagine it just like paused for a moment there or got really like stuck in the gravitational field of some other stuff going on there. And it's always going to come back. That's still 100% guaranteed. But maybe it just went so far and went in like a really pointy direction and pouring and holding in that mire for a long, long time. You know, then we have this idea that it's a part of you and it's having a bad time, and it's you that can then kind of pull it back again. All right? So here's where we rely on, eventually, you know, it'll dawn on you, maybe I'm a little tennis ball that a bigger sun also threw out. And then the revelation comes, you go, wait a minute, of course, it's just mechanics. If my little suns can get stuck and think that they're real and think that they're, then obviously I am one as well. So what do? You know, pray to God or something like this, you know, and ask for, you know, a reprieve or ask for some blessings. And then it comes. And it comes in the form of, you know, because you as a benevolent sun thrower, you don't reach in there and like save it. You don't just grab it and just yank it back in, because that would violate physics. You know, we want things to be smooth and harmonious, and we want harmony. We don't want jagged edges. But you can sort of give it a bit of through that little thin line of communication, you can sort of whisper it into you and go, hey, just let go. Just you're grabbing onto a dead meteorite at the bottom of a chasm. Just let go. And then it'll spring back again.
Yeah, that's exactly how it works. Yeah.
What about, so there's that thin line of communication, sure. What about sending accordions? How does that work?
Last week, Chris attracted an accordion into his life. Various serendipities. He I don't know, dreamt about it or.
Yeah, I dreamt about it, and that was the first and only accordion dream I've had. And then the next day, I had one, and I didn't pay for it. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's great. We didn't pick up on that symbology actually of the accordion. I don't think last week.
No.
Yeah, but that's it. You know, it's like so you know, you're chucking your son out, and there's a lovely long arc, a nice long wide arc. But really, you know, when you get so addicted to it, and you want that shiny bit of metal where there was one before, it probably becomes more like a yo-yo. Boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom. Oh, I want to. You're trying to get it. Trying to give me it more. And so there would be this effect of like you going down, and then you're basically stopping, getting stuck, like a yo-yo, like a trick. Stuck, still there, and you just need a little. You know, when you're doing the yo-yo trick, you just need to go. Boop, just a little. Boop. So this is the Shakti part. This is the, you know, the guru, the touch of the guru kind of thing. Comes down and boom. So important for people's spiritual journey. It's just, you know, one particularly monumental experience, which is often, you know, accompanied by either a dream or sometimes an actual injury to this area. It's pretty freaky. When that happens, you know, how common that is.
Big pimple.
Thank you, Michelle. Did you know my mother had basically like a sore, like a pimple there for most of my childhood, like exactly where the Indians put it. It was just like, and you know, she's a pretty anxious person, so I think she probably picked at it a bit, you know. She just had this red spot right there, like an Indian woman, for until I was about 12. Freaky.
Been poked a lot by the guru. Wake up.
It actually, and you know, when it went away was no. Later, when I was more like about 18, Dad had a dream where he was shot there. Some story about it as well. I don't remember. Because, you know, like my mum and dad, like my mum sees people, she sees like, you know, dead people or other people clear as day, and always has. Like to the extent where she doesn't know whether they're real or not, and they live on a little farm up north at the moment, and she was wondering what this guy was doing, you know, in the next paddock. Old man, you know, and then she was about to go and like talk to him, but then this cow like walked through him, and she's like, oh, not real. More real, anyway.
Right.
Yeah. So like my dad taught me like what he didn't know was Reiki, but he taught it to me when I was a kid. Like, because Mum used to get these headaches, and Dad used to just know that he could kind of hold his hands there and just sense where the bad feeling was, and he could just do things with it and move it around and get it out, kind of thing. And so it's over this time when Mum was getting it a lot, and Dad showed me how to do it. So when he was at work, I could do it for her. So, symbology,
yeah. I don't think you answered my question of the accordion though. Like, how did that?
Yeah.
If that's like I understand this thing is kind of happening outside of space and time, but if these, you know, these quotes are happening according to natural law, then how
does that happen? Yeah.
Well,
okay.
yeah. How does communication happen in seemingly real time? Or I don't know.
Yeah.
Or like why is it sometimes really fast and sometimes it's not?
So it's a marionette, yeah? A puppet is a marionette. It's a puppet master. So it's one stick above with several puppets connected to it.
Yeah.
And perhaps an accordion connected as well.
Yep. One of them is playing an accordion.
Yeah. And so the string gets pulled.
Yeah.
And the string gets pulled
Mm-hmm.
from up here, and the accordion's, you know, the accordion recipient is here, and the accordion itself is here, and the string gets pulled, boom, and it gets dragged across. And the rate at which it comes is the rate at which it comes, depending on the severity of the yank, but also just the sheer practical constraints of where the physical accordion actually is and how it's going to get there.
Right. So it's just connecting realities.
So
From
to get
one
an,
perspective, yeah.
to get an accordion to the recipient requires it required little messages. You know, it required you to have a dream on that day, and of a certain nature that would motivate you. It's not motivate you to actually go to the place where you saw the accordion, but to be intense enough that when you went, there was a separate motivation for you to go to the place where there would be an accordion in partnership with the dream of the accordion. Those two things at play, so that when you saw the accordion physically, you would also remember the dream, and it would spark something, and you would think of to be of note, so that when you came back to the house, you would mention it to the housemate, and that you didn't buy it, but you dreamt about it, and that the housemate would then get a whisper in her ear, right?
Yeah.
Non-physical nudge in the form of a generous feeling and so that she would offer you the money to buy the accordion. Because these little voices in the ear, they happen all the time, right? But is that okay? Is that free will? Is that someone fucking with you being possessed when that happens? What's going on there?
Well, for all is one, we're all able to pick up communication with ourselves and other versions of ourselves, and therefore make things happen for ourselves as well in more subtle ways.
I guess like the problem that I have is that I'm usually not sure whether or not I am quote unquote manifesting something, or whether I'm getting a premonition. So like I can't tell the difference. So it'll be like, you know, someone will be like, oh, you know, Jane's going to call you, or some, you know, is it me that's thinking of it and then making it happen? Or did I just receive the advanced message that it was going to happen and then it happened? Like, I just can't like get my head around that.
Does that matter which way it comes?
Not really, but I don't know. I feel like sometimes if I, it matters to my perspective more than anything else. I don't know.
I have similar things like that, but I just think it's one and the same, and so therefore I've either dreamt it and it's happened in the future and I'm pulling it in, or I'm here now dreaming about it. You know, it doesn't, for me, it's not really here nor there. It's going to happen, whether or not I think I've lived it or whichever.
But what matters is that you're open to whatever comes.
Yeah, well, that direction.
Yeah.
There's a little process there for you, Jackie, to just continue to go through where your intellect, because you're very intellectual, your intellect. Right, we've talked about this in regards to your sister, comparing you to your sister kind of thing. Your intellect is much greater, and that's wonderful, but it's also the ego, and the ego wants linearity and it wants to explain things very well. And so that's very natural for your intellect to ask, well, did I create it or did I precede?
I suppose the importance comes for me if I perceive it to be negative. So if it's a positive or it's neutral, I don't really care. When I perceive something, like if I get a message that something negative is going to happen, then it becomes, am I receiving this warning, or am I making something by giving it energy? So that's the problem that I face sometimes.
Yes, right? Anyone else agree?
Yes, and then I try and run away from it. I'm like, no.
Don't think about that. Don't think about that. Don't think about that.
But isn't there a way that balances out if you have had a negative thought or think something bad's coming to you, that because you're already vibrating quite high that it's not going to hit you? Well, that's what I believe in anyway. That's how I get rid of it. Is that a strategy?
That's a good strategy, I think.
because you can't really run away from the thought of it, but you can just go, oh, that's not going to affect me because, you know, I'm doing my practice and I'm doing the thing.
Needs to be resolved, doesn't it? Because like you're not going to, if you're not able to handle the information that comes in, if you're only able to handle it half the time when it's inconsequential, but when it's actually important that you freak the fuck out and push it away, that's where you stop.
Exactly. So it's like I want to be receptive to like potential warning, but then there's also like, oh, I have trouble distinguishing, you know, is this something that has just occurred to my regular mind that I am now blowing up,
right,
and giving energy to?
Yes. Any thoughts, Chris? What do you got?
I can't say I've had enough of these experiences to really.
Oh, great. Okay. Yeah. Wow, fun times ahead. No, look, you can set the parameters there for yourself, right? That's just a self-sabotage. And what kind of twisted scenario would that be where you can, you know, where your fears make the thing come true because you're psychic? You know, you've developed your abilities too far, and now whenever you like invest fear into a scenario, you make it occur.
Makes sense to me. That's just
because your thoughts become your reality. So if you are thinking the negative, it's like
you're attracting it. Stop thinking about it. You're attracting it. Yeah.
It seems completely logical, frankly.
Yeah.
So how are you going to resolve it right now?
Think of better things.
Yeah, but what if you find yourself obsessed temporarily with something fearful?
Just decide.
Can't get rid of it.
Well,
decide. Jackie, yes, decide what?
I was just gonna. I mean, what I do when that does happen, like momentarily, is I just go, oh yes, well, I'm clearly very worried about X scenario.
Yeah.
I would like to not be worried about that anymore. And then I just don't. I don't know. That's not really a method.
No, that's a method. That's a method, right? So let's elaborate that a little bit more, right? So when you realize you're fixated on a negative scenario, you can turn your gaze up and go, higher self, I think I'm a bit far gone on this one because I've succumbed to fear, which doesn't even exist where you are. Higher self doesn't have fear. There's no such thing. Fear is a very, very separation and three-dimensional lack kind of thing. I fucked up. I'm scared. I'm freaking out. Sorry. You're going to have to like...
pull me back, like the sun.
Yeah.
Not pull me back, but make my connection stronger to you so I can feel what I am and that this isn't the reality that I'm desiring.
Yeah, it's not going to go away, right? All it can do is transform. So you're going, imagine the accordion, right? Your yo-yo is going down into the abyss. And it's at that point where it's still going down, but only very, very barely. And maybe it's just sitting there, right? This is the peak fear. And that you will only start the euphoric, amazing resurgence back home when you go, when you declare the peak fear. If you put it away and go, no, go away, then you'll just stay there. You'll just be staying there at the bottom of the abyss, not thinking about it, but still thinking about it. You know?
For me, it's characterized by like, it's getting sick of it. I'm like, all right,
right.
I'm done with this. We're finished.
So you just let go.
Yeah, it's quite a conscious thing.
Yeah. So that's the thing. You gotta let go. You gotta realize I'm feeling fear. Therefore, by definition, I am not in a spiritual frame of mind. Therefore, I have no control over things. I can't psychically influence the world because I'm just a monkey now.
Yeah.
So, fuck it. Just move on to something else, you know?
Yeah.
Trust that the marionette string puller is always the one that's actually pulling all the strings. That even when you do seem to make stuff occur in the world, it's not the lusty, greedy, fearful you that's doing it. It's really not. You only make things occur with consent to the thing that it's occurring to. So even if you were like indulging in black magic and witchcraft, and you wanted to put a spell on someone, something negative to occur, you wanted to make something negative occur. This is why you're having these fears, right? Because it's a throwback. It's a bit of trauma from your witchy black magic days.
What are you talking about?
You know you did it.
You know you did it. Come on.
Don't shame me on this
So-
public forum.
A spell. Go line. A spell only works when the person you are trying to curse actually agrees to it.
So they
Yeah.
want to be cursed.
What?
They would have to want to be cursed.
Yeah.
Or it's not even, well,
Or it
it's not like
becomes
a
mutual
conscious
benefit.
wanting to be cursed, but
Right.
it's like a victimhood that they put on.
Yeah, it sounds like domestic violence in a way. When someone gives their power over in a relationship that's not equal, and they're willingly doing it, but realize that they're on the verge of that danger as well, and then they can't get out of it because they've given that power.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
That's Michelle, moving into that category that territory that we were talking about last week about, why do bad things happen to good people, right? Michelle, we were talking about, starving people and victims of crime, and how the spiritual approach, the sincere spiritual approach is that they want it in some form, and how hard it is to talk about that, because you look like a maniac. Yeah. Yes.
So
So just to finish that one up, so it is a matter of getting sick of it. That's actually how you do it. And so a domestic violence victim needs to get sick of it. Needs to get sick of it as quickly as possible. And the only way you get sick of it is by experiencing it over and over and over again. And so if a friendly witch is going to put a curse on you, and you need to experience the state of cursedness or victimhood, well, the witch is probably doing you a favor, and you'll probably say, yes, I agree. Because at least then you'll be, really messed up, and you'll get sick of it, sick of being a victim sooner. That's the way the mechanics of it works. What you want, you get until that particular craving is resolved.
will those cravings stop completely? Like, will we stop having those negative thoughts come, or going down that yo-yo spiral, and will that stop and lessen, or is this life that we have to go through all of them, and is it that the whole process of this life? Like, are we going to keep on having them?
All right, two answers there. One is any particular one only goes away when you get sick of it and willfully, of your own conscious decision, very, very clear decision, go, I'm sick of this. From now on, whenever I experience this feeling, I'm going to think of it as this. And from that moment, it's you that did it. You didn't get rescue from it at all. It took you to get to the bottom of the barrel and to be so sick of it that you decided, fuck this, I'm taking control. And then you change it. And then from that moment onwards, that feeling doesn't go away. It's never gone away. It's just transformed. This is why some of the most intense negative habits and scenarios are the most joyous, right? Like the elastic band, and it finally gets to go back up. And you're going up from the bottom of the abyss, and you've been there for so long. And you go straight up again. What a thrill. And it's such a good thrill. It's commensurate to the depression from before. And that's why we choose to incarnate into awful experiences, is because the reward is just as good as the punishment was bad. Because we're masochists, because this is the training school, The other answer to the question is that in a more general situation, I think this is how you kind of meant it, is like, what about the other 2,000 versions of negative experience that we're attracting, right? All flavors of fear, blah, blah, blah. Do they all have to be resolved in that one at a time kind of intense way, or can we just be done with it? So yes, we can just be done with it, right? So the trick there is to be focusing on the upswell, right? So you, rather than focusing on like a materialist's psychological healing, like CBT, have to go through every single friggin' bad memory you ever had or bad time you ever had and then resolve it all over a few years and many thousands of dollars. Instead, you just go, all right, so there's some crap there. I know the general strategy for dealing with it in the moment. I also know the general strategy for fixing it all once and for good. is to focus on the highest excitement, the thrill, what genuinely interests me in life, what can benefit not just me but the community, what my true highest ideal of physical, artistic, creative expression is, and just go for that. And then you will be a comet. Hey, the comet's back. You will then be a comet, right? Going up from the abyss, and all of your fears and all that material crap that you picked up that was weighing you down and keeping you stuck to the bottom of the ocean, you'll be dragging it up with you, and you'll form this really beautiful shiny tail. So it's still there. You didn't get rid of it. It's all right. You treat it. That's your unit. Every comet is unique. You know, you don't want to lose your identity, right? You want to go into nirvana, these kinds of cool aspects of the nirvanic state, but you don't want to be deleted from reality. You know, you're still of value. This individual that is running by the name of Josh, that has 5 other simultaneous existences, which has the cousins as well, and the existence in the black magic place wherever Jackie was, and then the existence in the other places on the other planets. That's cool, right? That's of value. We don't want to delete it, but we can have it as part of like the tail of the comet journey. Big comet, bigger comet with a unique tail. Story, tail, story.
Yeah, just repeat words.
No, tail as in like the tail of the comet, and then the tail as in the story of the comet.
Yeah.
Accordion.
What's with deities?
Deities. Right. So, Kali is the one that we'll talk about because she's the one that I've been looking at the last few days. And yeah, the typical mythology of Kali is, you tell me, Michelle, what's the mythology of Kali?
I don't know. I looked up Durga. She's my one. I don't know. You can tell Kali has all the skulls. She dances on Shiva.
Yeah.
Celebrates.
Kali is from Durga.
That's correct.
She's a form of Durga.
That's right.
That was called upon to defeat some demons, I believe.
Yeah.
And she got a bit too into it. She got a bit out of control, as I recall.
Yeah.
And Shiva threw himself under her to wake her out of her crazy time that she was having. And then she woke up from it, I think.
Yeah, so the physics, like the mechanics of physics, these things occur. When you are in the physical or any level really, and you do yogic practices of austerity, things that are hard, like, 90 minutes of yoga per day, or perhaps alternatively spending 50,000 years meditating within an anthill, right? Anything on that scale, things that are hard, right? You end up getting magical powers, getting boons, right? So you can, if you do Ashtanga yoga, you can levitate through the air and do handstands. And if you're doing meditation in an anthill, you get things like this deal where you're not quite immortal, but if a single drop of your blood spills and touches the earth, then a few thousand warriors will suddenly spawn out of the earth and will be covering your back. Will be fighting for you. So there was this time where this demon had that thing happen to him, where he was given that magical power, and he had an army already, and he was like destroying the earth, and it was a pretty intense time, and the regular gods, all the normal gods, they were having a bit of trouble containing him, and they asked Durga for a bit of a hand, because Durga's quite warriorish, and she saw it and she got really pissed, and she knitted her eyebrows in fury and meditated and said a mantra, and then Kali sprung up, and Kali was huge, like 2 stories tall, and like black, and had like black skin like hanging off her bones, and was all haggard like, and a really long tongue, really long tongue, and she was like shrieking, and even just by her shriek, like a whole bunch of the warrior demons fell dead just from her shriek. And so she just kept on decimating all the demons until she got to this one demon, the demon general, who had the superpower. And she had seen that what was happening, you know, was that every time anyone injured him, suddenly thousands and thousands of new soldiers would spring up because a drop of his blood would fall to the earth. And so she knew that was happening. So what she did was she pierced him in his side, like just stabbed him with something. But then with her tongue, she like scooped him up. Oh no, with her other hand, she scooped him up and she stuck out her tongue, and drank the blood. All of his, and drained his body, like squeezed his body out and drained all the blood out of his body and drank every single little drop of it. Yeah. And then she threw his corpse on the ground and she's like dancing on the corpse. Fuck you, you know. But the blood was like special blood, obviously. And it made her quite intoxicated. She was already a pretty fearsome kind of crazy bitch. But then she was just like dancing. And she was just pummeling all of the corpses of all the demons of the earth. And that was cool. And it was like shaking the earth, and the other gods, you know, because they're not as, you know, they're obviously a little bit scared. They called out to Shiva, and Shiva's our ultimate god. So Shiva's just floating in space nearby, meditating. And they called out to Shiva and said, hey, can you give us a hand, because this creature that your woman created is now like starting to be a bigger problem than the demon itself. And Shiva is like Lord of the Dance, right? So Shiva just went, my woman, she's dancing. Yeah, let her have her fun. Yeah, she deserves a bit of a dance. You guys can just go. And then she like, and then moments later, she stomped so hard that it like rattled gravitational waves throughout the universe, and Shiva himself was like knocked off wherever he was sitting, you know. So he's like, oh shit. And so then he got worried, and was like yelling out to her, and she was just in a trance. She was just like, no. And like meanwhile, the earth was starting to like quake. And so all he could do was throw his own body underneath her feet, because he's so strong, it wouldn't really hurt him probably. And so she was stomping on his body. But that was enough, like that gesture and that contact, physical contact was enough for Kali then to kind of go, what's going on, and then to see what was happening, and then to like just become calm again. And so the story, the idea is that the dropping of the blood and the sprouting of thousands of more warriors, if that's like the ego, that's the thoughts impulse. That's the, if you try and injure the ego, you try and suppress the fear. You know, when those worrying thoughts come, you go, what if this bad thing happens? And they're like, they multiply. Right? If you try and hold it at bay, it'll just multiply. And if you're doing yogi practices and you're playing around with psychic abilities, that's just making you more potent and more energized, and more problems will come up. So the only thing you can do is surrender. You're not gonna control Kali. You're not going to control the mind that's in a trance. It's hypnotized by physical reality and hypnotized by fear and lust and aggression. You're not going to control it. You know, it's just going to get more and more out of control as you do yoga, as you do more and more uplifting movements. But all you can do is acknowledge that it's always going to be there, and then surrender, let go, and then it'll transform. You know, those corpses and Kali, they didn't just disappear when this happened. They stayed there, you know. There was a transformation. Kali stopped her bad behavior. And I don't know if there is any extra part of the story, but, you know, presumably then the world is saved, and an era of beauty can come about. That's that part of the story. Then moving on to the real reason that I framed this talk in that way is the multi-armed nature of it, right? So simultaneous lives, for example. You have an arm, you have a very real arm holding hands with another. and you have another arm holding hands with another, and another arm and another arm in this life, holding non-physical hands out and maintaining constant contact with other beings. And that's the simultaneity. You can't see it, but you know it's there. So that you can deal with all of those suns that you've launched out, and rather than being pummeled by them, you can reach up and extricate yourself. Not only can you extricate yourself in one way, you can take yourself into any way you want. You realize that because when you feel like you're being pummeled, you don't actually need to like escape this realm completely. Like it's not that bad. It feels that bad. It feels like you need to. But actually, even if you just like recede and withdraw into yourself, into your higher self just a little bit, suddenly everything is fine and you don't want to leave. So you can also become aware of just other parallel beings, planes, ways of being, planets and such, dimensions and such. Right? Because simultaneous version of you might be in Germany and might be big in the electronic dance music scene and might have some legitimate skills and knowledge that would be good to impart to Chris, right? Because Chris is learning music, right? That's a really, really obvious real world thing. And, you know, the witches that Jackie might have hung out with in Stonehenge or whatever, you know, she's obviously keen on learning a bit more of that sort of stuff, and they might have some good tricks for her to learn and also some cautionary tales for her to learn, and maybe that's even why she's being racked with guilt over causing bad things to happen.
Mm-hmm.
That's still on the human realm too, you know. Like, what about the sun itself? You know, last week we talked about the planet as a being, the planet Earth as a being. You know, what about the sun? What about Jupiter?
I mean, isn't Surya is like a very nice role for a being to play, supposedly. Yeah. Like it's a very good incarnation to have.
Yes.
You get to have that one for a couple thousands of years or eons.
Yeah. The experience of a sun would be vast, and it would put suffering into perspective too. The sun will witness a lot of, you know, what we would call suffering, right? It would simply be a custodian of planets where all this kind of good and bad stuff happens. And it would also have like the strength knowing that a comet can even come near it and just vaporize. And patience, you know, existence across massive spans of time, this kind of thing. And what other beings might there be? Yes.
I don't know if we're done with it, but I have more to get from the spirit beings.
Yes, yeah. Go for it.
You mentioned that your mother sees or dead people?
Human figures, yes.
Human figures. I was under the impression that to drop your body, you have to be pretty well along in terms of extricating yourself.
You also have to desire that particular truth as well.
Yeah, and so you got out. So is it possible is that why people get stuck as ghosts, or I don't really? Is there a difference between what we call like ghosts in the West?
There's a difference between a person that's died and is still living that incarnation even though they've died. Like that's what we're thinking of as ghosts. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny now. I thought about this the other day. Like, because like when you talk to a non-spirituality inclined person, yeah, like Luke, I was thinking of, even though he's got that whole.
You always, it's always
Yeah.
aimed at Luke.
Yeah. Yeah. Ghosts in Western popular culture, ghosts are known to be people who have died,
Yeah.
who are probably like stuck in limbo or something, and that's why they have this kind of weird continuing existence. They haven't been able to let go enough of that. Like that's it. Death is like if you get so sick of this situation and you're not able to in this life be told or realize to let go makes everything better, then that's why death comes. So physical death comes. It's like, all right, this one's too far gone. We'll just kill it and let it be reborn so we can have another go at the whole mistake and see if we can remember how to get back out again. You know, it's just like living another life in a video game.
Is that what death comes? Is that what you just said?
Yeah.
All right.
You didn't make it to the end. You didn't make it to the end, so.
And they can already see that early in some cases.
You
See
could.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like suicide and stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So then is there an attachment from that soul in that body that doesn't quite let go, yet the body's not there anymore, but the soul lingers?
Or is it the soul, or is it more of an echo or an impression?
Yeah.
Because
so
that's
Yeah. So that ghost, that fairly ordinary ghost concept is a thing, right? But what else is there? What other explanations are there for, my mum seeing human figures?
There's other, she could be seeing people from other dimensions, like bleeding into ours. She could be seeing aliens. She could be seeing other beings that have a complete will. They're not just dead people walking around. They are beings that have their own willpower and their own existence in their own right. They might be representing themselves as an old man in a field.
Could she also just be that's just her lens of this reality, and that's what she sees? Just like I look up in the night sky and there's no stars one night, but there's clearly stars there. Can you just bring that into your scope of reality through your vision? Can it just appear and be as real as a person is alive or dead?
I don't quite follow that one.
Well, if you believe that it exists, then can't you just make that thing exist?
Oh, okay, just a visual image.
Yeah.
Just for the hell of it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fine.
I'd be more inclined though in your mum's situation. Was she spiritually inclined?
Was forced to be because she gets this kind of thing and like messages and stuff ever since she was a little kid. And she thought it was normal, and fairly early on she just in sharing with friends, her friend at the time said to her, you need to never tell anyone ever about this ever again, otherwise they're going to take you away and lock you up. This is when mum was like 7 or something. So very, very early on she got told and got the fear of that put into her, and so she's a classic like psychic person in that way,
A typical story.
Yeah, and so she basically just kept it to herself, suppressed it a bit. Met Dad when she was like 18, so, and Dad's very open-minded. He's a bit of a tripper, and so was a good partner for her in that way,
Okay.
Where are we going to go with that?
Well, I was going to say, if she's inclined to be a kind of skeptical person, or she finds these things unpleasant, then she wouldn't be willing them to exist in an imaginative way.
Quite true, yeah. No, she's certainly not skeptical. She's kind of being burdened by it. But you could say she's schizophrenic if you wanted to be a materialist and put her like a really, if you wanted to cut it off from anything more interesting, you could say she's just a schizo.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess the reason I'm interested is because I had an experience a few days ago, like maybe, and it was either dreamt or real, and it could be either, because if it was real, I feel like my ego repressed it immediately because I didn't know what to do with it. And if it was in a dream, then that's another thing. But the experience was just of sensing someone behind me that was significantly more than just an empty space. It just felt like there was a person, and I felt like their energy, and it was somewhat neutral, and I just kind of acknowledged it. I don't know how. Just like sent something to it to say, "Hi, how you going?" And that was it.
Nice.
And this was just up the road, but it all felt very automatic, even including my response to it, though there was obviously a positive intention there.
Yeah.
But yeah, if that was real, then I immediately forgot about it until my housemate was mentioning the recent experience that she had.
Oh yeah.
Where she was out picking mushrooms in a forest, and there was this man there, just being there, and that dude followed her around for a while, followed me back to her boyfriend's place, and yeah, that's it. He doesn't know what he's up to, but yeah, her telling me that kind of triggered.
Right. Nice. Yeah. So everything that you experience is real, whether it be what you label dream or waking reality. I know what you're getting at.
Yeah.
Just remember that there's a definition there. There's a tendency in a materialist with the scientific materialist assumptions, which are assumptions that, for example, dreams are a somewhat irrelevant byproduct of consciousness, which is also a somewhat irrelevant byproduct of biology. Like the assumptions of material science are really quite erring on the side of your mind being inconsequential. And that's only one perspective. The universal consciousness perspective flips it on the other side, is that your consciousness does exist. And it's an assumption as well. Your consciousness does exist beyond this entire body, in fact. And that dreams are, there's no real difference between a dream and a waking state dream. This is a dream. This is a hallucination. We know this. Quite common for theoretical physicists to posit these kinds of simulation theory. This is a dream. Parallel realities. This is just the modern day equivalent of the priest and mystic class. They just happen to be labeled theoretical physicists now.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was real. You had an experience, and presumably you enjoyed having it because it's right up along the lines of this field of endeavor.
Yeah, I guess I bring it up because I don't know, I got the feeling that while I handled it positively, like my reaction was one of like openness and like love, and I feel like if I had to come up with someone with less neutral energy, like maybe they were angry or something, I might react in a more like aversive way and cause problems, I guess. I don't know. It felt different to just meeting another person. It was like there was no overlay, and I just got kind of hit with this energy. And I don't know. I don't know how that's different from meeting another person in the body, but it felt different. Good. Because I was just feeling them.
Yeah. the normal senses were, the physical senses were withdrawn, so your other senses were heightened.
Yeah.
Proximity sense was heightened.
I guess it just kind of felt like I ran into this person, but it was like our energies like went like that.
Yeah.
Right.
I know what you're talking about. Like it feels very sudden when it happens that way. Like I feel like the difference between that and meeting another person is that normally, like, you know, you put on your shoes and you leave your house and you have the unspoken assumption that other people are going to be there at some point. So you agree to that contractually when you leave. When these kinds of things happen, that's not necessarily the case. So you're not in that frame of mind. So it can feel much more sudden and more intimate when suddenly these people, whoever, friends, new friends arrive from wherever the hell they're from, and you're like, whoa, this is a different vibe. Like, and I think the more it happens to you, to an extent, the less freaked out you'll be. But I don't know, that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, maybe the vulnerability was what was to me.
That's definitely valid. Like I've had very similar experiences.
Yeah, I felt really like there was nothing that I could hide or which is why it was good that I was like good vibes, you know. But it felt
the event in its true and instantaneous form was purely positive and natural. Your natural was all naturally positive, and after the fact, your ego jumped in and said, "Oh, that was borders were impinged, and it could have gone bad."
Yeah.
Useless thoughts, right?
Yeah, but what's weirder about it is that I forgot about it immediately.
Yeah.
That's kind of scary to me, is that I might be having these experiences all the time, and my ego is just shutting them out.
Why is it scary or annoying? That idea that you're having them all the time and you're not remembering them.
Scary because you know, I want to have more awareness, and it's just
what are you scared of?
Not being conscious, not making a decision that is wholesome, I guess, and hurting someone, or having an exchange where it's unfriendly, and it just doesn't go the right way because I'm not really seeing it clearly.
You're specifically afraid that you would be the one that would do the poor behavior?
Well, that's all I can control from this perspective. But maybe there is some fear that's tied up with, like, you know, possession and shit like that.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of assuming you were going down. But yeah, the idea that you would be the one that would not behave friendly or something.
I don't know. Maybe it is the possession thing, and I just want to be in control.
Yeah.
Of that exchange.
Yeah, that would be the fairly, or the 100% always experienced, you know, hesitation. Someone's in your zone, someone's in your area, and you didn't expect it, and it was jarring, even though everything went well afterwards. Your ego, which is solely appointed to the job of maintaining boundaries and separation, suddenly after the fact realizes what the fuck just happened, and that could have gone bad. That's what its job is to assume they're negative. So same thing with Jackie, you know, having valid premonitions sometimes, but sometimes having just worst case scenarios and negative fantasies bouncing around her head. You know, where the first impulse is always love. The most natural, real impulse is always love. And sometimes this is uncomfortable secondary thing, which is.
I had a thought about what these entities are. Are they versions of, like, just as we travel, like there's 5 of us sent out there at the moment, say for example, and that's us like waking up in that realm of that? Could it be that like some sort of appearing in another place and not really being fully conscious or aware of where we are, and then we forget it and move out of that?
Well, typically this sort of thing is exactly that. It is some version of yourself. You don't have anything to fear. Everything is filtered through you. Nothing that you will ever experience is actually anything other than you. There is no need to fear ever. Mm.
Also, I would say that nothing can possess you without your permission.
Right.
Is the other point to keep in mind in terms of entity interaction.
The whole concept of possession is a thing that can be voluntarily gone down if you want that.
Yeah.
You still harbour ideas around power struggles and control and pleasure at the expense of others, that kind of thing. If you've got some streak of that in you, then you can do it. But if not, you just sort of see it as an option and go, no thanks, and just keep on going. Done. So it's also like an inculcated thing too, because we all know what the word possession is. You know, we've all seen like The Exorcist or things like this. You know, we're just aware of it. So it's bound to come up and go, hey, maybe this would happen. You just got to go, no thanks.
Well, it's funny you say that, because when Chris was talking, I was like, that's not what was happening in my mind at all. Like, I was like, what? And like, when you kind of brought that up, I was surprised. Like, I was like, oh, but that's just my background knowledge coming in, I suppose, because that never would have occurred to me. I was thinking something else. Like when you were talking about negative stuff, I was like, oh, you mean you're going to react with fear, and it's going to, the entity is going to react based off your fear, and then this will happen. And like, I just had a whole completely separate thing going on in my mind. So funny.
So if this stuff happened without these sort of baby steps and then self-doubt and then seeking reassurance and blah, blah, blah. Now, if it happened very quickly, you might end up in the mental ward. How quickly do you want it to happen? Do you want, we talked last week about looking for synchronicity, and how synchronicity and serendipity and all these like little moments where you know what's going to happen, and accordion stories and whatnot. That would be a really nice way to live a life that was progressing well into a more integrated spiritual awareness and existence in a way that's like noticeable, but also quite fun and inconsequential and happy. Uh-huh. This would be an example of leveling up. How often do you want to have out of nowhere physical proximity experiences with non-physical entities, Chris?
Definitely pushes boundaries. What you said about I can't remember when you said it. You said there's no such thing as privacy.
Yeah.
That became suddenly very real to me. I was like, oh, okay, I get that now.
Yeah.
I kind of suspected that was the case before, but
yeah. We've talked about this thing, haven't we?
Like, yeah, it was pretty intense.
Yeah. Unnerving.
Yeah, unnerving. I got the feeling that maybe what I'm scared of is just being followed around all the time by people and having to deal with this kind of thing all the time. Like not being able to be left alone.
Well, you are already always in the company of others. You have never actually been alone in your entire life.
Just how aware do you want to be of it? That's all.
And you've also never had privacy. You're just beaming these friggin' suns out of your chest non-stop in a frankly embarrassing manner. Your lusts and predilections are all very obvious to those who are attuned to it. And that's just the way it is, and it's beautiful. And it's not just you, everyone is in the same boat. We're all in the same boat. And yeah. Sorry
Well,
about
that's shit.
that. I mean, no other humans can see it, so like, you know.
Yeah.
They tried to warn you when they told you in Sunday school that God was watching you, right? They tried to warn you.
I'm alright with God watching me. That's fine. It's just, yeah, something about a lesser being just watching the weird like intrusive thoughts and
A lesser being watching you.
Who's watching it?
I know what he's referring to.
Who's the lesser being?
Well, like if you referred to Sunday school God, so in that paradigm, anything else is below. So any other entity would be lesser than Sunday school God.
Oh, so lesser than Sunday school God. Okay.
Yeah, that's what he was referring to.
Okay. But then let's take it back to you, right? So these are versions of you.
okay. Keep forgetting that.
Yeah.
Beautiful people, I'm going to head. I've got dinner plans at my parents'. Thank you so much for the chat. I'll see you all next Saturday.
Okay. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Here's the thing about the everything is you thing. That's fine. I accept that. What if everything is me, but perhaps they're confused and don't have the right intention?
So this is the possession.
Like, how do you trust that it's going to go right for this individual being?
Yeah.
Or can you not?
Yeah. Is it okay for you to have no boundaries? Like what's the threat here? This kind of thing. Yeah. So so attraction. So you're only going to attract versions of you that are at the same vibratory level as this you. So all the people that are around you are just yous that are similar enough to this you to be attracted.
Oh, that's good. I know some bad versions of me that I don't really want to run into.
What, more bad than this one? Okay.
Way worse.
You repeat that last line. I was doing something funny.
Yeah. You're only attracting. You're harmonizing with other notes that are close enough to your primary note that will speak this kind of resonance.
Okay. So, is it ever safe to assume that we are far enough along karmically the journey towards union?
Yeah.
That we're that we kind of can't really backslide, or is it?
Yes, it is safe to assume that.
Okay. Well, that's nice.
So, two rivers running along a plain, and have been on long journeys, and just keep on going because there's an impelling from behind. There's just a push. Never-ending push, inexhaustible reservoir of water, two rivers, and the rivers at some point get very close to each other, as we were saying before, and they start to splash over, and they realize they're actually on a bit of a shared path at this point, and they go, yeah, fuck it, let's go, join together, join together. And the partnership is entirely positive in that it increases the swell and can penetrate the earth better and can carve the channel better and get accelerations and see more and feel more and all these kinds of wonderful things. And at some point, if there's a will or an object is placed in the path, they can split off again. Did the privacy of the two rivers get impinged? Yes. The identity didn't. You know, the journey of independence from eons ago is still there. Like the past is still there. The future can be unified or apart or open and closed many, many times. They can join with other people, other rivers. They can do whatever they like. In this moment, in that tiny little part of the journey, they merge together for a while and relinquish their privacy, and all decisions were co-decided until there was a decision that they didn't want to do that anymore. One of them or both of them decided, no, I want to make different decisions to you. So they went, and apart again. No privacy for a while. But also no privacy because, you know, all the rivers are connected anyway to the same source. It's the same water.
Yep.
Story, the karma, the backstory and the forward story is different.
The Buddhists talk about falling into hell realms, and
I love the hell realms.
of course,
Hungry ghosts.
Yeah, hungry ghosts.
do you love the idea of them, or do you actually love them?
I just like the stories.
Yeah, they're interesting. But, yeah, I guess.
Yes. The apprehension that you're feeling is good and necessary and valid, and I'm in no hurry to relieve you of it.
That's wise.
All right. Well, you said no backsliding, and then you saying, which is what I guess the question I was asking: can we lose our spiritual progress?
Yeah. All you can do is delay it, which we talked about last time as well. So the yo-yo can never be snipped. There's never any snipping. There's never any being lost, actually. There's always that connection line is always there. So no matter how much you resist and hold on to the notion of possession, hungry ghosts, backsliding, you can grab onto that idea, that rock, and you can just grab onto it and go, nah, but what if this happens? It won't happen. Yeah, but what if it does? Look, it's there, it's an idea, you know. Okay, well then just hold on to it for a while, you know. Eventually you'll get sick of it and you'll move on. Yeah, the reason that you're holding on to it is because of your perversion.
I'm sorry.
Because this is what the ego, we make compromises. You know, when you've got all those balls, right, they started off with noble objectives, you know, just having little experiences, but all those suns whirling around, you get so bombarded and so confused. And the only gratification that you can ever seemingly have again is these small windows of pleasure that happen only when certain things aligned. You know, when you've stomped on enough people to get the promotion at work, or you've got some torturing ant fetish going on with a magnifying glass.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of thing. It's all desperate pleasure seeking. Okay. So that's okay. That's what we're experiencing. We're all there, you know. And that's why it presents as an option, and that's why you are inclined to give it time, because it's such a strong cultural meme and societal meme, and it's just unavoidable, really. It demands attention, and you won't get rid of it. You've got to sincerely confront it and then decide that it's not for you and put something in its place. Shiva in its place. That's why the second last step of spirituality is Buddhism.
That's good. I like that.
Is what? Sorry, you broke up.
The second last step is Buddhism,
Oh, yeah.
and the final step is Shiva or Krishna.
It's pretty good.
All right. Next question. So the 5 lives thing happening at once, that was an analogy, right? We're not literally having just 5 lives.
There's more than 5, yeah.
Well, yeah, we're doing everything, but
Yeah, there are distinct, closely related people to you that are living right now. Yeah.
okay. How do we tell that a physical person is one of those people?
It's easier to tell. So you only get what you need at any point, right? You are utterly guaranteed that you have absolutely everything you need in every single consecutive moment. And the flip side of having absolutely everything you need is that you don't really have access to much that you don't need. So, if this really, really lights you up and you think it might be worthy of a life purpose, then you can explore this concept. But really, your purpose is something around the music and teaching thing that we've talked about. So that's really what you're being given. Is there if there's a reason for identifying these, then sure.
Just curiosity, I guess.
That's right. It's just curiosity. So that's why, it's the same with psychic phenomena. That's why people will be able to do enough of that kind of stuff to prove it to themselves. But then flogging a dead horse and overly proving and then trying to prove it to other people, it's not really within the scope of this endeavor. You're not meant to fix other people. You're not meant to accelerate them at a pace that they're not already at. That's why, like, I'll tend to be asking you the questions and getting you, giving you information that you ask for, rather than trying to plan ideas, because it's not necessary. It's not necessary.
I had it wasn't a big dose, but I had some mushrooms a couple days ago.
Nice.
I got this real strong, well, it was pretty mild, but I got this real strong sense that I'm just being past exactly what I can deal with at any point.
Yeah.
Process of waking up, and it's like, yeah, it's perfectly, it's just perfectly proportioned.
Yes.
Which seems obvious in that state, but it never is.
Yeah, that's nice.
Usually. But yeah, like I'm given just as much as I can handle, but really, the hole we were talking about between the two sides of the wounds, that could be as open as I want it to be, right? Or as open as I can handle it.
Yeah. You can open it up. You can open it up to be more than you can handle. You'll just need to flip into a different universe or body that can handle it. And that can be done instantly. You'll just need to use your very real imagination to construct how that would work, how that would look, and then decide to live that way.
Right. The imagination thing is still like, I really understand all of this intellectually.
Yeah.
But it's the intellect is so much more further ahead of.
I know. Me too. Honestly, like I'm very well aware of how ridiculously insufficient I feel my work is there.
Yeah, it feels a long way off, but yeah, I don't know. I found myself like entertaining the idea of like just switching those belief systems off.
Yeah.
But it seems it's like, yeah, it's so thick, the chains that we've like created around these things over lifetimes. I actually can't really entertain it for more than a couple of seconds before the mind just goes, no, that's not possible.
Are you entertaining switching a belief off, or are you entertaining a new belief?
Good question.
Yeah.
Well, I'm questioning the existing beliefs, such as I don't receive premonitions. I don't manifest things in the universe. I don't. I'm more than. I'm just this small self.
Yeah.
I'm entertaining the notion of switching that off, which I have, to varying degrees. But it's one thing to make a request and that be answered, and another thing to like interact more tangibly, which I suppose is, I don't know. I think of the imagination thing as being that.
Yeah.
I find it difficult to accept that just by imagining something it's real, because imaginary in Western culture means not real.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's pretty hard to separate those two things.
It's yeah, and it's just definitions. It's not material. That's all. It's real. It's like the definition of the word. Everything is real. It's kind of like everything is natural too. Though it's one of those words that can be kind of stripped of all meaning.
Yeah.
It's non-material. It's nonetheless vast. It's a bit of a conveniently limiting kind of assumption to make, that imagination is inconsequential and temporary and for kids. But you could do all kinds of things there. Very little creative and productive and truly important work on the material plane gets done in an absence of imagination. If someone fixing a car is using their imagination, they are visualizing, even if it's so mundane to them or so automatic to them that they don't really consciously recognize that they are. They're imagining the working of the engine, the placement of the parts, the timing, and they're playing it like an instrument.
Yeah.
Let alone creating something that doesn't already exist. That's just maintaining something. When I knew how to drive really, really well, shush Jackie, before I drove, because I used to be so into the idea of driving cars. I used to like read car magazines, and they used to be much more focused on the handling of cars. So they used to just, every road test would be, they would take a car to a track and just describe in really nice detail the weight distribution, front rear, and left, right, and the effect of braking and the pitch and the angle. And I used to just and I used to read it, and I fully was driving. I'd never driven.
But that's a kind of Shaktipat. Like direct transference of knowledge when that happens. Because I've done that with smaller things in various points in one's life, where you might only watch someone, or you might only read about it a lot, you know, but you're thinking about it and you're putting the energy there and you're really concentrating on it. And despite the fact that maybe you don't practice it at all, or maybe once or something like that, you get that direct transference from...
It's attracted,
Yeah.
And you could go to that linear, non-linear, did you cause it or attract it kind of question again there too, because it's both at once. You know, it wants to come to you and you want it. Yeah, the accordion as well wants to come to you. Like, you didn't necessarily have a premonition. You know, you just have a desire, and it was going to get fulfilled shortly.
Yeah. Well, actually, I desired it. I talked about it like a week previous. Just that it'd be nice to. My housemate's writing this concept album, which I guess I'm working on with him.
Yeah.
He said, "Is this melody I want to open the album with?" And I said, "Well, it might sound nice on accordion."
Yeah.
And so I wasn't desiring it. I actually just took it as a sign, like, because I've been, you know, like you said, asked for sort of semi-mundane things to happen, just to switch you on a bit.
Yeah.
And I took that as that.
Yes.
Although that was pretty explicit. I mean, dreaming something and then.
Very explicit, yeah. Remember, this is not a necessarily a desire wish granting service either. You know, it's a co-creation. So I guess another thing to look at when you're tempted to think of yourself as a victim of other entities, even if they are just yourself, there's no victimhood. Like, when if a part of yourself presented itself and you felt it as a separate entity, and it appeared to have powers that you don't have, you also have powers that it doesn't have. It's very much a sharing thing. Great pleasure in being a three-dimensional human. Great pleasure.
I guess I thought of it like, I've met people that I find quite unpleasant and very aggressive, and, you know, like, I don't know how to handle them.
Yeah.
I might be scared of them. I imagine that spirit beings would be no different in some extent, and I guess where the sort of wanting to talk about it came from.
The way so you can also deal with things that need to be dealt with. You can choose to deal with them in physical or in non-physical imagination. So if you meet physically someone who is a bully at work, or annoying, or just an aggressive jerk in the traffic, or whatever scenario there, you have to know that that is you also. Right? This is all you.
You okay, Jackie?
Yes.
An aggressive person wouldn't exist if there wasn't aggression in you. You would not be able to see them. The fact that they present in your imagination, your waking imagination, means that there's a part of you that is also like that. You can identify it because it's you identifying. So you can resolve that instance of your aggression by loving that person. You can also, that's an example of dealing with part of yourself in the waking imagination that we call real life. You can also deal with, and this one's more for you, Jack, is you can also deal with fears in your imagination rather than having to live them. So when you feel a worst case scenario pop up and you start to have that freak out about, am I going to make it happen now because I'm worrying about it? You can go, all right, well, I'm just going to let it occur in my imagination, because obviously it worries me and obviously it's something that I need to grapple with. I'll just play it out in my imagination. I'm going to imagine the plane crashing. Imagine be playful with it, right? So imagine it crashing and bouncing off the water and bearing back up in the air again. Or imagine it crashing and everyone dies except for you. All these
So
kinds of different things.
I can kind of get what you're talking about because it's like it's a catharsis or a purging as well. Like it has that effect. Like I have played with that method before.
Yeah.
It's like if you're really scared of something, like maybe you should watch a scary movie about it and like get really freaked out and then
Yeah. But better to do it in your own consciousness.
yeah. But you know, it's the same concept.
But it's the same concept, yeah. But I reckon that if you were to do it with movies, you'd possibly just blow it up even worse. The idea has to be resolved. And then it's about getting sick of it. So this thing is like presenting, and you're going, no. So just go with it, live it in your mind, and go, all right, it's done. I'm sick of it now. There's no need. It holds no allure anymore. Okay, so yes, the worst is going to happen, and that's a really healthy thing to do, right? Because then you go, all right, well, then the anxiety is resolved. Okay, so if the plane does crash and Josh dies, well, I can see that there is life goes on.
Yeah, which I have utilized that at various points in my life, and I think just not being entirely conscious of that's what's going on. Like normally, like it'll naturally lend itself to that sort of thing, and then I'll do it, and then I'll be like, I'm sick of thinking about this now.
Yeah.
We're bored of it. We're bored of the idea.
Yeah.
So
The spiritual value of getting sick of stuff.
Fed up.
How about songs stuck in my head?
Oh yeah.
Yep. I mean, as you can imagine, I'm a very oral person. I can't. It's things like, particularly music, possesses me, and I just. It takes so much energy to stop it, and then it just starts up immediately. It's like my ability to hear music internally is so like complex that it takes no energy. And the only way that I've been able to stop it is just to change the song.
That's right. Yeah.
The trick is the Piano Man. That's the one. Billy Joel.
Yeah, but you're willing to have that one stuck in your head, are you?
No, that's the best case scenario. Or my full conscious attention is like put onto like just creating the space. Any suggestions for pulling myself out of
that? No, just choose good songs.
Yeah. But I mean, am I just destined to have single lines repeat for hours on the rest of my life? Because it's not like a whole song. I won't get the whole.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I'll get the catchiest line over and over.
This is the same thing. Like, are you destined to be compulsorily reincarnated all the time? Well, yeah, but once you realize you have control, you don't want to not have it anymore. Once you realize like you've got a hi-fi in your head, once you realize you can control it, you just control it, and then you get to enjoy it.
Yeah. So I just need to reframe it.
Yeah. And the that paradoxical thing occurs is where once you accept it, then not only do you embrace your ability to play selector of the record, it also no longer interferes so strongly.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's particular situations where I just don't want it there.
Yeah.
Like when I'm doing asanas and meditation, I don't want to be hearing music. It always seems like a lot of effort to switch off.
It is too much effort to switch off. Just that's a classic example of holding a reservoir. Like, why?
Right. So just let it go and don't worry about it so much.
Choose it. No, take control. Like, choose the song. It's just your creative impulse coming and not wanting to be repressed. Write a song in your head. Write a new song every single practice.
Okay, but I mean, I guess I just always hope that when I've calmed enough, it won't be there anymore.
Yeah, I don't know if I've told you guys, but I like John Farnham, right?
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, probably, yeah, and there was an interview with John Farnham on telly, and he was talking about how musical he is and how just it's in his blood, and that he's always got a song playing in his head. And I thought, yeah, me too. That's so cool. John Farnham's cool, and I am too.
I'm not surprised.
Always got a foot tapping, he said. Always got a foot tapping, always got a song in his head.
But that's true of so many musicians, I think. Like, even you know, Gabe. We were in school together, and
it's annoying. He's always tapping out drum beats at the cafe. Would you believe
he's been doing that since we were 13. He's just been
/ hospitality employee. How rare is that?
Yeah. He's just like he was always doing it. He's always done it.
Yeah. Annoying.
Yeah, so I don't do that much. I actually have noticed that I chew to a not a beat. It's more complex than a beat. I've got 2 beats going in my head, and I'm chewing in a kind of polyrhythm.
Yeah. I used to run to a beat in my head. I used to make up mantras in my head. I used to have a slightly worrying, and again, Luke can testify to this. I used to have like a slightly worrying gibberish, speaking in tongues, mantra tendency.
Right.
See, you're just lucky that you didn't, because I did as well, but I just learned Elvish like a normal person. As a 12-year-old. I would like get poems, and then I would make my own song to the poem.
Yeah.
And like do weird shit like that, or like learn Elvish phrases and fucking talk to myself because I had no friends.
Yeah. Really like to have you as a friend.
Particularly, the other thing is the people at Tallulah at this cafe where our mutual friend works, I actually started to get for the last few years. I found it very difficult to contain my annoyance when they play the same fucking song they've been playing like for the last few weeks. Like they're playing Harvest Moon, and it's just shite. Oh fuck, it's bad. Neil Young sucks. He is so shit. And it was just come on, and I was just like, and I was starting to get trauma. I was like, and I had these dialogues with myself, like, Josh, this is really upsetting you, and like you're still here. Why are you still at the cafe? Because it's got trees. It's a nice cafe to stay. I shouldn't have to deal with this crap, you know? And I would just run up there, and I like, depending on who's working, I just jump on their computer and modify Spotify myself. Just fuck this. Life is too short to hear this awful crap again. And because it would be stuck in my head, like it's like stuck in my head for like the rest of the day and then oftentimes it would be only like the first 5 seconds of the song would be enough to put the whole damn song in my head. Like it was already too late. By the time I was angry about it and changing the song, I'm not. I don't know if I'm the right person to be advising on this.
Yeah, clearly not. You dream of hi-fi sets and amplifiers.
Yeah.
I just read the bit in your book where you quote Jackie, actually.
Oh yeah.
Your car analogy.
Oh, the car.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
I was proud of that.
Very good.
Because I probably understand cars about as well as I understand the physical body, so which is quite poorly. So.
Yeah, it was good. But yeah, the radio bit stuck with my. Got a real shit song playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a thing.
it's a very useful analogy too. Like when you've got repetitive thoughts going on in any form, you've got beliefs, you've got just things that are mundane, which is the paradigm. It is the story of humanity at the moment, or three-dimensional humanity. You know, it's pretty good to have, especially if you have a partnership of positive and wistful serendipity occurring that reminds you of where we're going, as well as monotony bugging you in the background. That's probably a good thing. There's a carrot and the stick both at play, you know.
It just sucks. Yeah, I'm sick of it. If I'm sick of it, why would it go away? Must I attain full liberation to stop having musical numbers in my head?
I think you should start composing. Well, obviously you don't start composing, but I don't know. There must be some next level of time being spent composing that you haven't stepped into.
Yeah. Okay, here's an interesting one. So when I've had weed, I get these incredible compositions in my head just flowing, and they sound unbelievable. And I can hear things in a way that's like they seem more real than the compositions I hear in my head in sober reality.
Yeah.
I guess when I'm writing music sober, it's fine, and I can usually just like intuit where the music needs to go, and there's a kind of emotional sensitivity there. Like this chord means this, it feels this way, it feels like or whatever, and it would sound good played by these instruments or whatever. When I'm high, it's all there, like a fully finished piece of music that really it just hits the spot every time.
Yeah.
Why am I so connected to that when is it just that there's more energy in the system, and it's kind of like setting off that interconnected feeling in my brain?
So as a non-musician, I used to really enjoy getting stoned for that kind of experience when listening to music. I felt like I could hear far more detail, I could hear far more instruments simultaneously, and I could just really, really relish it. In exactly the same way as like when you enjoy food when you're stoned, right? Like you could feel more of your tongue and all the different flavors and interplay. I would say those are like equivalent things. So for that reason, maybe I would say that being stoned heightens your physical senses, and what you're talking about with composing or hearing is still a sensory thing, but it's a mental sense.
Okay.
Part of your brain. But it's pretty impressive, like considering the general dulling effect of weed, at least in the medium term. It's pretty impressive that that simultaneity, that broad, like expanded awareness of multiple things at once occurs.
Yeah, it's the reason why it's so difficult for me to stop is because I know I can keep like getting these hits of like,
Actually, now that I mention it,
like further along than I am when I've done it.
I think there might be a relationship there with the paranoia and whatnot, because I never used to have very much. I used to have it frequently, but not very much, because I would get too paranoid. But for me, it would just open up especially around people, it's just far too much awareness of what other people are thinking. So it's like it skews your awareness into like more perception, but it seems to not boost or even shrink like executive functioning and judgment and to manage that. So perhaps you might compose the things in your head very well when you're stoned, but are you getting them down on paper?
No way.
Yeah, you're just sitting there. Yeah.
Just enjoying.
So it's useful in a way in that it gives you that experience, but not ultimately productive.
Yeah, for sure. It was always helpful to start a piece of music, but never to finish it. So if I can set up the instruments before, and then just leave myself with the kind of like wait, and then hit record.
Yeah.
And I've made some beautiful stuff like that, but it usually doesn't work.
It'll look after itself. It's not an all or nothing thing. It's very adjustable.
I have had these times where I feel really full of energy, and I know that smoking will just like kill that.
Yeah.
But I'm not really at the point where it's paying, if you know what I mean, like to not smoke. It's, I don't know.
You're saying it still feels like pain to not smoke?
Yeah, I guess so. Like it's just, I don't know. It's difficult because it's always fun, but
Sounds like you should stop smoking.
yeah.
Or just for a period that is a bit uncomfortable to think about.
Well,
that's 2 days or 2 weeks or something like that.
Since we talked about it, a while ago, I've had a few stints of going like easily 7 days or 10 days without it, which is quite a lot for me. And it's a lot easier when I'm doing yoga every day, of course. It does feel better when I'm like 5 days in or whatever.
Yeah.
But I suspect that it'll take like a month of not doing it, and then I'll really see that clarity.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, but don't be a martyr either. Just what like going 7 days, 7 days. That's good. You should have a minimum. Like say, all right, I'll only ever smoke for 3 out of 4 weeks. I'll always have at least 1 week off in a month. Right? Set a boundary like that. Make that consistent. And from there, making it 2 on, 2 off will be relatively easy.
Okay. Yeah, it's just it's hard to see in the moment, but it's like a gradual extrication.
And then the hungry ghosts will stop bothering you.
Yeah. Did you say my name?
Yeah. I just saw it. Good. I like it.
If you were to look at the shaman point of view, weed. If you want that angle, weed brings lower entities.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to me at the moment because obviously the Kundalini energy is a new thing for me.
Yeah.
It does bring that up. But I'm not interested in that in the long run. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I want to go up.
Yeah. When you get a little taste for that, when you start having 2 weeks off, you'll get a taste for it and you'll go, oh shit, okay.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to go too. Thank you for the chat.
It's a pleasure.
Hey, Jackie. By the way, all of your, what do you call these? Is it a kimono?
Yeah, you can kind of call it that.
Yeah, they're very cool.
Thanks. I've got a couple of them.
Yeah, you're
good. Kata.
Japanese fetish.
Shut up.
Mm-hmm. All right.
You guys.
See ya.